around it. For the same reason, the negative Earth or our other planets were never part of the positive Sun. The planets, being of opposite polarity, could be attracted to it, but never thrown off from the Sun. The Sun's insulation stratum prevents the positive polarity of the Sun from attracting the negative Earth to it. Light is transmitted into energy by penetration into the matter that interrupts it. The matter then gains motion. A negative vortex of light energy produces decelerating effects in negative matter. A positive vortex of light energy produces accelerating effects in negative matter. You can apply the principle of the Earth's crust and core rotation in opposite directions to an electric motor. Mount both ends of the shaft on fixed bearings. These bearings will suspend the entire motor. Run the two wires from the motor case to two copper rings mounted on insulation on one end of the shaft inside the fixed bearing. Brushes from the power supply must contact the two rings. Be sure to remove the base of the motor and balance the field case on the fixed bearings. Power applied will rotate the armature in one direction and the field case in the other direction at different speeds. By applying a pulley to the shaft and another to the case, then running V-belts from both pulleys to a common point of work, the torque force of the normal base-type electric motor will also be applied to the work. One V-belt will have to be twisted 180 degrees between the motor pulley and the pulley of the work to counteract the opposite rotation in the motor. This uses the torque force to do useful work, reduces speed and wear on the bearing, and furnishes more power for greater work output. This is the same way the core and crust of the Earth function, each being a balance to the other. The crust is the field and the core is the armature. Unfortunately, the explosion of kiloton and megaton power A and H bombs have unbalanced natural conditions. This will bring about a steady increase in subterranean temperatures in the northern hemisphere and lowering of temperatures in the southern hemisphere. The rapid shifting of the magnetic poles registered on the surface is the result of these bombs unbalancing the planet. Wherever the magnetic poles on the negative polarity surface are found, they indicate where the axis of the positive polarity core is located under the crust. The core is encased in fluid obsidian, 600 miles thick. Oscillations of the core, which were set up by the reaction to the bomb forces, will cause an increase in volcanoes and earthquakes due to the increased frictional heat in the fluid separator. Throw the fine balance of the electric motor case out and see what happens to the armature if it were floating in a fluid. Any spinning gyroscope will wobble if it is moved from its plane of rotation. The Earth works like a gyroscope. Magnets, atoms, planets, and people all have polarities of either positive or negative predominance. Because of body predominance in one polarity does not mean that the substance of its composition does not include matter of the opposite polarity. When your positive polarity body reaches predominance, your negative polarity physical body dies. The same thing applies to planets, magnets, or atomic structure. The nuclear or positive polarity devices being exploded in our negative polarity atmosphere are rapidly bringing about a condition of polar change on the Earth's surface. The emission of positive polarity particles or fallout from the H-bomb tests are unbalancing the polarity predominance of the Earth. The positive fallout particles are attracted to the negative polarity north magnetic pole. When the positive particles fall, they are on negative polarity ice. The resistance causes heat, causing the ice to melt. The negative polarity water released by melting is repelled by the more predominantly negative polarity crust of the Earth into a less predominantly negative polarity atmosphere. In the air, it is attracted in a spiral course to the positively predominant southern hemisphere, where most of it is attracted to the positive polarity south magnetic pole. This causes ice to build up at the southern pole and melt at the northern pole, bringing unbalance to the planet's axis indirectly from the explosion of nuclear bombs. The magnetic poles registered on the surface of the Earth's crust are in reality the axis points of the Earth's positive polarity core. As more bomb tests transmute negative polarity matter to a positive polarity condition, the effects can be registered in many ways. The magnetic declinations shown on the Los Angeles R2 sectional aeronautical chart dated March 10, 1953, shows that the 15-degree east magnetic declination line at 115 degrees 50 minutes west longitude at 34 degrees north latitude line The chart dated September 27, 1955, shows a shift of the 15 degrees east magnetic declination to 117 degrees 2 minutes west. This is a change of 1 degree, 12 minutes, and 2.5 years, or 28.8 minutes per year. Formerly, it was slightly over 9 per year. The main reason for low layers of smog over most of the big cities is because the carbon particles in the air are not repelled upward as they used to be before the advent of the H-bomb test. The polarity of these particles normally become negative. They are becoming less negative due to the fact that carbon assimilates radioactivity on positive polarity. Thus, the repelling action is reduced and the particles hang closer to the surface instead of rising to be dispersed by the winds at higher altitude. Magnetism is the positive and negative fields generated by the revolving planet interrupting the positive and negative lines of primary energy present in all space. Electricity is the force generated by an armature interrupting the positive and negative lines of magnetism. Each has its effect on the other and can be converted into the other. The time field separates all primary polarities, all magnetic polarities, and all electrical polarities. This time field is unseen, infinite, and maintains the balance between the opposite charges present in all bodies. This balance is manifest in all new creation. With the continual testing of nuclear devices, the planet's unbalance will increase by the equal and opposite reaction of polarities coming ever closer to balance. This will bring about more ionization at the atmosphere, with an increase in smog, humidity, and clouds. Then the Bible prophecy will be fulfilled that said, "The sun will no longer give forth her light." Verse: "In the pattern of my ways I live my life in many forms, known and unknown to other parts of me. I live in space of me to constantly supervise my doing. I live in soil to nourish my roots. I am the sap, the blood, and every density I am. I live my life and love it too. Being the loving love of you, thrilling where you express me in thee. My life is sad only when you are mad at other parts of me, only when you manifest hate to destroy. Then I wait patiently for you to recover, to discover that you have only injured me and thee. Your every fight is my fight too, but not when it is aimed at other beings of me. Your fight is to overcome the urge, to purge yourself of war and woe. None can hold to me and proclaim victory over others of my parts of foe. I am here and there and everywhere. Justice is fair play with me, and mine is my eternity of now." The New Jerusalem referred to in the Bible in Revelation 21:10 is not really new. It is the positive polarity moon that has been orbiting around the earth for many thousands of years. This satellite, called Shantia by the space people as a spacecraft, their name for the earth is Shan. Chia means child in their language of the Solix Mal, or solar tongue. Therefore the name of this ship is Earthchild in English. This same craft was called the Star of Bethlehem over 1900 years ago at the birth of the child named Jesus. This positive polarity spaceship is square. This is not new information. It has been before our eyes hundreds of years in print, though it was not recognized. Revelation 21:16 tells you, "And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth, and he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal." The reason it was called the Star of Bethlehem was because when it is activated under control, it looks like a star to physical vision. The last time its power units were activated was when the man Jesus was born. This positive star body generates a negative force field around it to protect it when it is in motion as a ship. Beth is used today as beta, meaning negative. Li, L-E, is used today as Leah, L-E-A, meaning a meadow. Hem can be understood by any woman as the thing that goes around the bottom of a dress. Star of Bethlehem means a positive body with a negative force field around it over a meadow. That is where Jesus was born, in a manger in a meadow. Shantia is orbiting around the Earth in the Earth's positive force field. It cannot be seen by telescopes because it sets up no resistance to the sun's positive rays. The Bible tells further in Revelation 21:11, "Having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like jasper stone, clear as a crystal." The seven lights are spoken of in Revelation 1:20. the mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, positive polarity, and the 7 golden candlesticks, the 7 stars of the angels, space people of the 7 churches, 7 levels of life around the earth, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. The population of this level of life on earth is composed of people from the other 6 levels. Chapters 2 and 3 of Revelation tells which of the levels you are from. One of these 7 church descriptions fits every mortal in this level. The population of Shantia is given by Revelations 5:11, and I beheld, and I heard the voice of many angels round the throne, and the beast and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000, and thousands of thousands. Verse: I am the voice, O mortal man, that whispers in the silence of your being. I am the motion instilled within the fluid dust of the body to encase you in this density of 3. I am the softness that all babes know when nestled to the breast of me. I am the hardness of the substance many times beyond the density that mortals know. I am the sun that warms the morn and scorches brow, for you must know within the being of me is thee. And search, though you do not for eons yet to come, I am not there where you may go. I am within you, giving life to the clay, that my motion may be manifest for purposes misunderstood by man. I am not the formula of many, nor of one. My combination varies with each speck of dust, with each drop of rain, with each thought, each individual pain and hope. For I am always surrounding thee, and thee and me, but makes the journey short. Look not afar, look where you are, eternity is now. O man, you need not chart a roadway through the stars to me. You need not cross the land or search beyond the sea. You will find me in the smile and the look of someone you have helped along the way. You have only to search your heart and start to find that I am there, wherever you may be. Though all the roads may lead to me, though my search eternally to find a shortcut in the way, I am there and here, as close to you to me. So reach not for a star afar, search not in the distance, in the future or the past. At least you are aware that I am there within your being, watching how you treat the me and others of my parts. Chapter 8, Methuselah's Toy. The Great Pyramid, Pyr, means fire. Mid, the equal distance between the extremes. Pyramid, fire or positive light substance in the middle of Giza, Egypt, is the only existent structure on the earth that remains intact after 25,816 years. It is the greatest power plant ever built on this planet. At the time of its use, it could furnish more power than the generation of Niagara Falls could produce in 1,000 years. The Great Pyramid was never intended to be a tomb or a monument for the pharaohs. Neither was it built by the Egyptian or Psychos, as assumed by historians. It was erected by the remnant of the Adamic race on this planet. In order to produce the power required, the pyramid was built in minute conformity to the measurements of our solar system. All dimensions were accurately computed to ensure correct functional operation. The pyramid was designed by Enoch and built by Tothma, who, with the help of the true descendants of the Adamic race, the space people, who had made a forced landing on Earth. Knowing universal laws and their application, they received timely warning and journeyed to Egypt before the sinking of the great continent Atlantis. Enoch and Tothma flying in an aircraft called Velix. After landing in Egypt 25,825 years ago, they started the operation and spent the next 9 years in building the Great Pyramid. Utilizing knowledge gleaned from their secret records, they employed the infinite light power. They knew how to manipulate the light lines of force to cut the blocks with light energy from the A positive and B negative lines of force. They transported the heavy blocks with their volux. Hovering over each block, they encompass it in their force field, eliminating the weight of the block in relation to the Earth. The blocks shaped so as to assure astronomical precision correspond to and contain all pertinent data of our Earth and solar system. These correct dimensions were necessary in creating a positive solar vortex on a small scale from the A positive and B negative lines of light force. The Great Pyramid was erected at its present location for several reasons. Its location was on the side of the negative polarity from the equator. The 30-degree latitude was the maximum vortex belt of both sides of the equator. It was lateral through the Earth to the positive pole of the planet's core. It was centrally located on the Earth land mass, which was its nearest maximum point of negative polarity. It was opposite to the Earth's largest mass of water, which served as a reflector. The weight of the pyramid had to be tremendous in order to prevent its twisting out of shape or rotating on its base. The controversial capstone and a few courses of block were left off intentionally, as experiments proved they were not needed. As the Earth rotated, each revolution brought the pyramid into a cycle of A positive and B negative lines of force. This caused an increase in the vortex shaft of positive force, the principle of the cyclotron. Thus, after a period of days, the vortex reached and held its maximum force. All this planning and work, astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, was recorded symbolically in the stones as the work progressed. Jesus knew this by intuition and journeyed to Egypt to refresh his memory from the stone records erected by his people. In building this power plant of astounding dimensions, their chief concern was the safe return to their own people. Being endowed with true perception, they visioned the coming cataclysm of the planet and planned on exodus. When the time of the departure arrived, they entered the king's chamber into the pyramid and charged themselves in the super light force vortex. Then they boarded their ships, hovering for a while over the truncated top of the pyramid in the positive shaft of force which extended beyond the gravity range of the planet. When the ships were properly charged, they were actually repelled from the planet and navigated with super speed to their destination. Some of the sons of God, the Adamic race who remained on this planet, knew of and used the stored up power of the pyramid for several thousand years. For instance, Methuselah and his sons prolonged their lifespan for hundreds of years by charging their bodies in the vortex. Many of the deceased pharaohs, placed in the open tomb of the king's chambers for regeneration, were restored to life. Those who did not revive were left there for a period of 28 days, during which time the mummification took place. However, as the earth moved in the precession of the equinox, the regenerative and rejuvenating powers embodied in the pyramid were lost. Rulers around the earth, knowing of the rejuvenating power of the pyramid, tried to duplicate the Great Pyramid of Giza by building a pyramid of their own by manual labor in order to live longer themselves. They did not fully know the principles of primary energy, however, so their pyramids became their tombs. Nevertheless, the secrets are not completely lost. Humans, knowing they are alive now and not knowing what lies beyond the transition called death, attempt by every means possible to keep their physical bodies alive. The inner mind keeps transmitting the faint hope to their understanding that they can live forever. Naturally, knowing that they possess a physical vehicle now, they are reluctant to part with the old model to which they have become accustomed. Monkey glands, hormones, operations, injections have been advanced by the technicians in biological and medical science to try and prolong the life of the physical body. People assume that substance of a physical or chemical nature can support substance of like physical nature. This is based on the theory that if you keep adding dirt to a hill that erosion is constantly dispersing, it will always be a hill. Nature always wins the battle in the long run because natural forces are eternal. Man's efforts to overcome nature by opposing it will lose every time. The only means by which man can add years to the physical form is by going with the natural eternal forces. Life is eternally continuous. Humans have placed the limits of was, are, and will be on life. These divisions of time are from the physical brain. The flesh we call the brain only understands now. It only exists in the physical body for now. It cannot understand anything beyond its own limits of birth and death. All physical substance changes in time. It is understandable when one has spent his years in building up association, friends, family, why he wishes to remain here longer. His brain concept of the physical body does not want to give up its encasing form. The biggest trouble on this planet is that when you get smart enough to do something with the knowledge you have acquired here, death intervenes. Our lifespan is just too short. In Genesis chapter 5, it tells of Seth, Enos, Jared, Methuselah, and others living for hundreds of years. They were so close to the knowledge of their ancestors of the Adamic colony on earth that they used their fountain of youth principle to add to their lifespan. Rejuvenation is done with the infinite light, or what is called God power. In the application of this power, the one receiving it does not see, feel, taste, smell, or hear anything. I have the information to make rejuvenation possible, adding 50 to 80 years onto the average lifespan, plus resumption of youthful virility. The only difficulty I will have is that we are on the planet that is revolving. In order to operate this apparatus, I must clock it to the Earth's rotation, quite like a large telescope is clocked to keep it centered on an object being viewed. Verse: O mortal beings, though many may express belief in the teachers I have sent, I accept them, providing that the expressions of belief is not a living lie. And those who live my laws and say, there is no God above, them I accept also. Though words may deny my person, the actions prove me in the heart. Belief expressed in words is not verified in fact unless the living brings about the proof. Though multitudes have closed the door that keeps me from being the directing force, I condemn them not. Though laws may make my being infinite and boundless beyond comprehension, I am not there in the individual except as I am expressed in action. O mortals bound in density, look to the examples I have placed around you. Bow not your head to come to me, only prepare that I may be recognized within your being. Stumble not on barriers that mortal eyes fail to see. Build the perception within that which may guide your path, that I may light the way so none shall stumble in progress of eternity. Lean not upon the cane of chance, but only cast a glance in my direction, which is within, to find the way by day or night. I make the path, I light the light. I lead you by the hand, and yet you trust me not, although you profess my being in words. The cycle has come in the circulation of my doing, and now I lead my faithful ones to victory over self. For they shall recognize my image is the light of sight, the light of right, instilled within each of my parts. And though I shake the ashes of my universe, the furnaces of my heat shall ever be the love of me expressed in thee. Chapter 9. The Sword of Damocles. I have explained that nearly everyone on this old earth has more or less dormant potential to communicate by thought. Like learning to play the piano or learning to become a master of any trade, sport, or any activity, the use of thought communication can only be accomplished by regular, continuous practice. The space people use instruments in their thought contacts with people only to ensure positive reception and to maintain power through conditions that could otherwise interrupt the reception. They think into a device they call an adiphone. This receiver in turn transmits through a projector they call an omnibeam. The omnibeam can be focused on any individual or group of people. This projecting of thoughts is mentioned throughout the Bible. Voices coming from heavens, the Lord speaking unto Moses and many others, including the voice of God coming to Jesus. The space people have explained that they can only focus his beam safely on people who have devoted much time to an awareness of open perception. Otherwise, the beam can be dangerous to the physical health of anyone that cannot stand its powerful vibratory transmission. One person has the power of one, and can normally only contact one other individual. Here on the earth, one power of thought is sufficient in the earth magnetic field to contact anyone other individual who is receptive at the time anywhere on the earth's surface. Thought projection by one person must be done by concentrating upon the individual you wish to receive your thought. Thinking his name and what he looks like must be pictured in the projector's mind several times. Then the thought you wish to transmit must be concentrated upon several times. This is for beginners. After one becomes adept at projection, only one thought, person, picture in the projector's mind will be necessary. The thought will not be projected to the one of whom you are thinking until you release the thought. In other words, after the concentration, you must immediately forget what you are projecting and think on anything else. As long as you hold the thought in your mind, it will not reach the one you are projecting it to. Unless the person you are projecting it to is in a receptive state, he may not receive the thought. To be receptive, you must make your mind a blank. Do not think of anything while trying to receive the thought of others. With continuous practice, your projective and receptive ability will become apparent to you. The power of thought can be increased by the increase in the number of people. One person has 1 power. 2 people have 8 power. 3 people have 512 power. This power cubes is resultant to the maximum of 12 people. This is the formula Jesus gave to the people when the creative spirit spoke through him, saying, "When 2 or more are gathered in my name, there am I also." There is the force that the Supreme Intelligence used to think the universe into being. Nothing can be manifested without first being thought of by someone. As I have said, 3 people have the projective force of 512 power. 4 people increase it to 134,217,728 power. When 12 people combine their thought force in unity on any purpose, that purpose would be accomplished. That is the reason Jesus did not select his disciples from among the intellectual of his day. He would have had too many fixed ideas to undo in their minds. Instead, he picked common people from among the multitudes, only one of which would even write. He knew that it would be easier to use the power of 12 simple-minded people than to undo the dogma, custom, and religious illusion established in the minds of the learned. Most of the acts Jesus performed were done through the concentrated power of his 12 disciples, with Jesus controlling this tremendous power. These acts have been termed miracles by people who didn't understand them. There are no miracles. Everything comes about by the natural laws of cause and effect. Thought is the causal force of all effects. Thought is of a positive polarity predominance, as it is a causal or projective force. In the physical level of negative polarity predominance, thought cannot manifest by itself. Polarity requires that two poles be active to manifest a result. A battery with only a positive pole will not produce current. Duality is required in equal and opposite forces in order to manifest action as the resultant. Motion can only be when unbalance exists. That which is in balance cannot move of itself. Some other force must cause the action. This is why the expression of God helps those who help themselves is a universal law. The Bible tells you that God rested on the seventh day. Nowhere does it tell you that God started creating again. It says that God completed his works. This means that God is still resting and can only be manifested through man, who was given dominion over all things. This in itself is proof of reincarnation. God made the race of man and then rested. Everyone of the race of man was created simultaneously. No one is older or younger than another. When God rested, creation was terminated by God. Birth of babies on the earth is only the repetition of their eternal creation here or somewhere else in the universe before. Death is only the departure from negative polarity manifestation to positive polarity manifestation. Life is only manifested through the interchange of motion through the unbalanced opposites. God is no thing. If God were a thing, God would have individuality and could not be infinite. For individuality is only a part of everything. God is referred to as He, the Father, etc. by the Church. This nullifies God's infinity and gives male gender to God. This excludes everything feminine and of a negative polarity. The Church would have God in the image of man, rather than man in the image of God. To use God power, you must bring it out of stillness and manifest it through expression or motion to produce a given result. In giving man dominion over all things except his fellow man, God expected you to use the infinite intelligence of universal being to manifest results. Why did Jesus say he came to bring the word? He could have easily communicated with anyone he wanted to by thought, but he said he came to bring the word. The reason was that he knew the power of God, or rest, could only be manifested in a predominantly negative polarity level of life by an equal interchange of thought, positive polarity, and expression, negative polarity. It is not my intention to prove this formally to you, but rather to let your reason and experience prove it to yourself. Look back through your experiences and recall if the following has happened to you before. Apply it now and make it work for you. God's power has no limits except those that man creates. Think regularly every night between 6 p.m. and midnight of something you need. This is projecting positive thought by concentration into the negative polarity receptive lines of force, which alone are active in this quarter of the 24-hour rotation of the earth. Then during the time from 6 a.m. to noon, which is the positive quarter relative to the projection polarity lines on earth, express in words that you do not want the things you thought about during the 6 p.m. to midnight quarter. By attraction, positive thought to negative force and negative expression, the word, to positive force, you can receive that which you have put the forces of the universe in motion for. This should be done regularly, night and morning, for 28 consecutive days, 1 magnetic month, and then release it by forgetting entirely about it. This can be used for others, especially if you do not tell them what you are doing for them. Telling them will bring their mind action into play and will interfere with the results. Once this formula is applied exactly as given, nothing in the universe can prevent the results from manifestation. You must think what you need or others need and use the word or the power of opposite polarity and patiently wait for the result after forgetting about it or releasing it into God's hands. The Creator caused the universe to be. Then all was given under the dominion of man throughout the universe. Man, using the force of thought, can create new things for progression or create new things for destruction. Thought is the prime force, and it is neutral. Words are the effects of thoughts. Whether they be good or bad, words are in the range of our physical hearing. They are the means by which thoughts are conveyed between people with sound. Various languages convey the same meaning by different sounds. There have been many arguments, discussion, and efforts to prove that things and people not seen in our life level can be materialized. The Bible tells many times about angels appearing before people apparently out of thin air. To believe in the Bible of Christianity with the concept that angels appeared in olden time and cannot appear in our time is certainly bullheaded orthodox. This is primarily done by some Christians who do not want angels to interfere with their selfish ways and pleasures. Much has been said about the space people of today materializing and dematerializing on several occasions. I can truthfully say that I have seen and talked with one of them that instantly disappeared in my vision, but I could still feel him when I touched where I had just seen him. Just as orthodoxy places limits on people's thinking, so does your physical sense of sight place limits on your seeing. Your eyes can only see within the range of the visible spectrum, about 4,000 to 7,800 angstroms in wavelength measurement. You cannot see the air, yet you breathe it. You can see water in its fluid density and its vaporous density, but when the steam is absorbed in the air, you cannot see it. Vibrations from about 20 to nearly 20,000 cycles a second can be heard with ears. Vibrations below our hearing level are called infrasonic, and those above it ultrasonic. Because the 5 lower senses all have limits, people's thinking have become narrowed into a groove that will not allow them to accept anything that is not within these limitations. Many of the space people live in frequencies of life beyond the human limits. By using methods developed by them, they can bring their body vibrations inside our visual limits as easily as we can condense unseen moisture out of the air into water and then freeze it into ice. Many spiritualist mediums can materialize people from beyond the door of death. Do not let yourself be confused, however, with these ectoplasmic figures or the words spoken through them. All figures of people generated through the ectoplasm of another person are from the transition or earthbound level, or are created from the mind of the medium. This is not to be scoffed at, as the power to create from the mind is a great one indeed. None of the space people from other levels of life are ever materialized through a medium. It is not possible to bring through ectoplasmic means anyone from beyond the Earth's force field. In order to progress to the finer frequencies of life and other levels, you must first know where you stand in this level. The creative spirit so designed his light universe that nothing can exceed its individual vibratory qualifications. Your individual record is being made daily by the way you live. Everything you think, say, or do is recorded in your aura. In the life following this one, you will only be able to progress to the highest level in which your light record will vibrate. No one is going to judge you but yourself, and you will be faced with the result of the record you established here. You must conform in the way you live to the laws of the universe. The densities are established by different vibratory frequencies of light. You can qualify to jump grades by the way you live here now. Verse: I am the voice, O man, speaking in the stillness of your being. The righteous recognize my voice. My call is to those whose ears are deaf to my withinness. I plead eternally that all may hear the me in you eventually. In the pattern of my doing, I bring you pain and joy, that you may feel me in the contrast of your senses. Never shall I cease to call to those who live in darkness. Though my patience is infinite, I suffer because of your sin. When you hear me in another, listen. Do not shy from me in the disguise of a raucous laughter. The ones who live in the clamor of confusion, to hide from me, are only adding sorrow to tomorrow. So I make each tomorrow a today, that your memory of yesterday shall make my voice the louder from out of the silence of an added day you spent alone. I have extended a light to manifest my creations from thought of me, and perpetuated motion through eternity. Each motion to bring an effect, and every effect a cause, by repetition in an endless pattern of my doing. I ended my work of bringing about, and made thee, O man, to carry continuity. My infinite watching is directed to you, my image of instrumentality, which is thee, O man. Whenever you sing, my heart sings too, through joy of your emotion. And when you assist another, the act of thee is devotion to me, and from me through thee. Whenever you sorrow, I am sad too. Each thrill you feel is transmitted to me. I too am ignored when you fail to see the me and others around you. Though you are in effect of my cause, O man, intelligent image of me, I only exist as effect of you whenever you cause me to be an extension through thee. Then am I active, then do I live, when you give effect to my cause in the love of me, through each day of my days, eternally. Chapter 10. The False Chariot. You must understand the substance